sorry,
Sorry, Stephen, you carry on. I'll tell you when to stop.
We were talking about the network in the context of work, that is beyond the educational organisation, and we were just looking at how we can show students how they can create their own personal learning environments whilst they're in the college, and maintain the connection with them as part of a network after they leave college, and thus learn from them as members of industry, and the educational organisation can keep up to date with skills and knowledge, and also share the mentoring role for the students that follow. So, Steve?
Yeah, so we looked at it. I mentor a couple of students now that I have. Some are in France, some are in England, some are in Australia, and we looked at some of the networks and the way in which we mentor those students. Now, some students choose not to be part of that system. It does tend to require some sort of a bond, a relationship to form for that to work reasonably well. An institutionalised system where they log on and they receive feedback from anybody is not very well received. There has to be that bond. So we had a look at a couple of the students I work with now that are based overseas, how it's assisted their career development, how they now feed back to the first years as far as where they found the value in the program they completed, and give them tips about what things to spend more time on, the things that have real value in the workplace. So it's very much about, you've got an alumni now that has been through the process, that is feeding back to students that are starting the process about the value of the learning, which we actually find is quite motivating for those that are coming through. Because we actually found that it was difficult to motivate a lot of students, because you stand up there, and they see an old fart with grey hair, who's well diverse in the hospitality field, but they think it's kind of a little bit over the hill, let's face it. But to actually hear it, similar things or the same things from somebody now that is applying what was learned, it shows them the value of the program, and again we find it tends to generate a more positive outcome, a bit more interest in what they're actually learning, rather than they're skimming through and trying to do the bare minimum to pass. They're actually trying to develop a career rather than pass a certificate. So, and we looked at a couple of other websites that we use for learning. That's about it.
One of the things that really came through for me was the ability to empower students. So whatever platform you're using when they're studying, to have some way that they can put this out to the world on the web if they want, to share the value of their work. So empowering ownership of their work, and also how with the computer networks and that, can we actually give them the ability to take that work away with them. One of the questions which I thought was quite cleverly answered during our discussions was whether the work that's presented through wikis and that can be assessed. And the answer came back very quickly that formative assessment works well. And I think that really is part of the power of the web, to form people's opinions and to share it. And when we were discussing over our break how the open forum here has worked today, that we're quite keen now to actually take this to the next step and keep discussing online what's happened here today, because we're now really at the point where we can start our discussions and build from it.
Thanks, Yvonne. Steve, you're coming at it from like an educational technologist point of view, who's been working with the traditional LMSs. What's your take?
I think all these things that we were talking about, like blogs, wikis, collaborative spaces, these are all things that we'd like to use at AUT. It does require the institution to give up some of its power and control, and there would probably require a bit of a change in thinking to do that. But this is a really, we could really go places.
Okay.
Some of these things.
Yep. And I'm an educational technologist, and we're already looking at how we can learn from what you're doing here at the university. So it's another benefit of us travelling around and meeting people. We're learning new ways. Thanks. That's great.